Every year, we as consumers are presented with a pretty impressive lineup of video games to choose from action shooters to infamous horror games. As long as it's played well and performs like a dream, we didn't give a shit about anything else. But what happens when the prices of games changes after all this time? I am not the first person to tell you this, but for the past decade or so, the price for video games hasn't been altered in any way. As far as I'm concerned, a brand new video game growing up was always set at the retail price of $60 plus tax. You might be thinking, well, $60 is a lot of money to spend on something like a video game. When you boil everything down, you're essentially paying for a product that you can't do anything with physically, but it's the illusion that games have given us that make them so unique with their epic storytelling, masterpiece gameplay, and timeless design that can't be matched. I hate to sound like that guy, but let's be honest, we're never getting a long run of amazing games again like when we were kids. The price for a new AAA video game has always been $60, without question. But recently, maybe even a couple of years ago, companies decided to throw us a curveball as consumers, upping the official retail price of brand new video games by $10 more. But why? As of late, lots of game companies have come to agree that making a stellar video game takes much more time and effort with today's available technology. It's no secret that when you design something as big as a video game, you have a lot of stress on your mind. There are certain expectations players have today. Will the game be fun? Will it be rewarding? Will I have fun? Or will I want to strangle myself with the fucking mouse wire? It's not exactly uncommon now for devs to charge $70 for new games. It's the new generation. Don't you want to see Kratos beat the fuck out of Thor in Ultra HD 4K 60 frames per second? Well, it's gonna cost a little extra for that, my friend. But one thing that's been on my mind as of late, and it's a question that can't possibly be answered by me, or you, or really anybody. I guess I'm just making this video as food for thought. Should games cost $70 from here on out? It's obvious that with time comes great advancements. And even though technology behind creating an epic video game is widely available, it's not exactly common to find a game worth playing in today's day and age for that price. Lately, developers have been sloppily releasing games as if they were once a birthday cake, beautifully decorated and frosted, but then they take pieces of the cake away, spit on it, slap it, and don't even have the nerve to call it back in the fucking morning. This year alone, we witnessed quite a few games release in unfinished states to the point where people only just started to call them out for it. Guys, when is the last time we got some genuinely original AAA titles in the last year or so that both performed well and were well received by audiences? Sure, there were a couple that stood out and did decently after launch day, like Star Wars Survivor or even Hogwarts Legacy, but the problems start to show more and more as we give these developers not only our money, but our precious time. We don't exactly have 100 fucking years of living in each of us, so it's nice to be able to enjoy a hobby such as gaming without it feeling like a fucking robbery. Why do developers suddenly implement this nonsensical price change? Is it because their games look slightly better than they used to? If games were rated by graphics alone, I feel like a lot of them would be winners, but that's just not the case. I've been called out before for my views on graphics within a game, and I'm gonna revise myself once again here. Good graphics do not make a good game. A game is good when it functions properly and brings me some sort of dopamine. Just because you're capable of making your own Mona Lisa doesn't mean it's gonna get its own special frame and a spot in the museum, for Christ's sakes, especially if the game is just straight up dog shit. Hasn't anyone else felt weird knowing that the games released as of late for $70 end up as actual hot garbage? This is because I feel like devs don't give a shit about the quality of their so-called fancy technology, and rather than utilize that advancement to make an original, groundbreaking, and intense storyline, or perhaps a brand new implementation of a mechanic never seen in older games, they instead use it to make such iconic gems like Redfall, Callisto, Forspoken, but they forget to add the most important factor of any game: the fun. Redfall, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, is just an embarrassing mess, and every time I see someone talking positively about the game, I always assume it's satire or copium. Everything I saw from that garbage fire made me sick, and they're really expecting us to pay full price for a product that didn't even have 60 frames per second after lying about it. What a fucking joke. Another example, Forspoken has the actual worst dialogue and character design I think I've ever seen in my life. This game has become a worldwide meme due to how ridiculously childish and immature the developers must have been. I mean, would you want to pay $60 to $70 for this shit? I wouldn't. Do I even need to mention the new Lord of the Rings Gollum game? Nobody, and I mean nobody, fucking asked for this. It's like if someone made a Harry Potter game but based the entire storyline off of the broom that's used in Quidditch. But the more and more I come to think of it, the harder it is for me to accept. Before someone comments the obvious joke that I usually hear about my financial difficulties, let me go ahead and say that no, $10 isn't the largest price hike ever, nor would it really change whether or not I purchase video games in the future. However, you can't deny that with this false promise from developers of better technology, new game engines, more realism in general, I guess it's safe to say I was hoping for better. I mean, after all, we're paying for better, right? Where is the fucking super hard work that used to go into making a game? I've talked about Cold Fear on this channel before, a horror game developed by Darkworks and Ubisoft for the PlayStation 2. It's a spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4, but brings its own kind of charm and horror to the table. Does it look like dog vomit on a Sunday afternoon? Sure, but that's because it's an old game. The graphics do little to affect how much fun I have when immersing myself in the boots of Tom Hansen. The story was original, riveting, and although it was a bit hard to navigate, I'd like to think it was a very solid game with a solid execution. These days, we keep getting half-baked bullshit from people who probably have never designed a video game in their lives. Glenn Schofield had an entire fucking documentary centered around the creation of Callisto Protocol and how scary the game was gonna be, hyping up literally millions of players, myself included. Then when the game launched, it received mixed but mostly poor reviews, and then radio silence. This happens too often today, and I guess I can't fully blame the devs. Players in general can sometimes be greedy, and I know I've been guilty plenty of times for hassling devs who delay their games and whatnot. When Uncharted 4 was delayed, I was beyond angry at Naughty Dog, and even pondered refunding my money. I'm glad I didn't though, because that game was fucking fantastic. My point is, sometimes players can take things too far, raging to play a game they're all extremely hyped about. Then when the game's released in early access, it becomes a fucking joke. The people who cried about wanting the game are now crying because they hate it, so I guess it's fair to say that both sides are to blame for this. Even then, what is it with these game devs not taking more time to make a game that we would genuinely find interesting, enjoyable, detailed, and charismatic? Sons of the Forest was released 2 months ago and receives cordial updates pretty regularly, but that's a game that was made by a small team and only charged $30 for its base price. So what the fuck are the excuses for bigger companies? We give them $70 of our hard-earned money, and what we receive in return as of late is nothing short of a disappointing birthday cake, except the frosting is cotton balls and the sprinkles are made of asbestos. I'm not entirely sure why I wanted to make this video. Maybe it's because I'm just so fucking sick and tired of it. Guys, games used to come out finished, plain and fucking simple. To that I say, I'm not gonna give another dime to a company that clearly doesn't care about us. Keep your eyes open, because I promise you, we're entering a dark age of video games. Either they're incomplete or they're nowhere near the same scale of what was presented to us during marketing. Obviously, I'm not saying to stop playing games in general, that's stupid. I just mean that none of this shit will ever change if we don't speak up about it. We're going to continue getting these shoddy, half-assed games unless someone genuinely cares about this hobby. I know I do, so I'll go ahead and answer the question you're waiting to hear. Should games cost $70? In my opinion, no. Not unless there is actual proof of technological advancements used within the game that we haven't seen before, or unless the game is praised enough to be considered one of the greats. Otherwise, we just have to trust that they're telling the truth. Well, I'll tell you now, I wouldn't trust someone selling half of a hot dog, let alone half of a video game. Anyways, you can ponder that for the day. I've given myself a headache thinking about all the disappointing games I've played over the years that promised a lot more, but ultimately failed. Mostly the ones that cost me $70 upon release. I know a lot of this video is just whining, but I'm genuinely not afraid to say that I don't like the unnecessary price hike. There's no need to charge us for extra sprinkles on a cake made of actual human waste. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this rant regardless, because I'm burnt out. I'm still waiting for another gem to drop from the skies in the gaming universe, but lately it's just been cold, hard fucking rain. Thankfully, Outlast Trials has finally been released, and so far, Brian and I are having a genuine blast. Next time you hear from me, I'll be covering Max Payne 2, then Outlast Trials. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel, and thanks for checking out this video. Leave a like, comment, and since we're on the subject, enjoy yourself. Thanks for watching the content, folks.